Hey, what's up guys, Crazy here, back into Borderlands 3, and today we're going to go over a full list of some of the best pistols currently in the game. I have tested over a dozen of these, there are a ton more in the game as well, and I'm going to try to rank them from best to worst because some of these are definitely overpowered while some are downright just bad and almost unusable. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting choices over here, a lot of manufacturers that are pretty damn good, and I'm going to try to rank them according to my own playstyle, so be mindful of that. Your experience might differ from mine, but generally speaking I believe that we can agree all with the majority of the ranking that I'm going to bring you. So let's dive right in, and before doing so there are going to be some spoilers in this video, so just be careful with that. I'm going to talk about certain aspects of the end game as well as posting some background footage about certain parts of the game that many of you guys might consider spoilers, so I just wanted to bring you guys the warning before proceeding. Now I'm going to start things off with a bunch of weapons. I'm not just going to go over like 5 or 10 weapons, I'm going to go over general manufacturers and a few examples for each. And I'm going to start things off with Jacob's revolvers because I believe that this is by far the best manufacturers, at least for pistols currently in the game. There are so many great examples in here that it's really hard to make a proper ranking. Some of them excel in certain areas while others in other areas, so in this case I'm just going to go over 4 that I find myself using the most. And I'm going to start with probably my favorite right now because this is definitely a very reliable gun, and this is the Maggie, or in this case the Dastardly Maggie. This is a Jacob's revolver that comes with a very nice damage of 548 times 6, but of course a lot of that damage is reduced by the debuff over here, which is minus 58% weapon damage. So realistically speaking it comes with about 1100 and something like that in terms of overall damage after applying this debuff, but even so it is still an absolutely amazing weapon, because what this does is it shoots about 6 bullets at the same time in a rather concentrated cone, so it is very good at dealing damage both against enemies as well as bosses. In fact, I would qualify this as an amazing mob clearer because it just shreds groups of enemies. As you can see in the background footage, I'm just dealing tons of damage, and that is because I have a rather big magazine size, the damage per bullet is rather big, I'm shooting 6 at the same time, the handling and the accuracy are rather good, and it definitely helps me that I have that weapon zoom of 2.2 times on top. Now this thing is a rather random drop, but I got mine personally from Chupacabra, so that is the way I farmed it, and you can do that by simply using offline mode. Now a bunch of other weapons that you may or may not be familiar with are the Queen's Call and King's Call. Both of these, as a matter of fact, can drop from Tyrene, though it's all a matter of luck. In this case, these come with the all amazing stats that we already know of. They ricochet 3 bullets into the enemies as well as returning 3 bullets into your magazine, and this is always going to be OP as long as it keeps these functionalities. It is powerful on its own because if you're hitting those headshots you can pull those crits, which further increases your damage, but if you put it on flak, and especially so if you augment it with the fadeaway ability, it's going to become downright broken. So that is why this is going to be on the top in terms of Jacob's pistols. Now another one, a very interesting choice that I really like is the Flawed, and this is another one that can drop from Chupacabra, and this is just an all-around amazing pistol. Jacob's pistol with the highest current rate of fire in the game. It has a magazine size of 8, but you can literally empty it in like a quarter of a second. I'm not even kidding, the rate of fire on this is absolutely huge. So the damage per bullet is like almost 1200, the accuracy and handling are pretty low, but the way you want to play with this is getting close to the enemy, close and personal, and you will never have trouble to empty it into their body. And once you do that, you can quickly turn your enemies into a red mist, and that is pretty much it. Not much can be said about this weapon outside of the fact that it's absolutely beautiful, it comes with some beautiful effects, and it is extremely fast. Now another one in the Jacobs category, and the last one I'm going to cover here, is the Duck. You can get this from the Grave Ward in the Floating Tomb, but there are a bunch of other places you can get this from as well, such as Loot Tanks, Chupacabra, or even Tyrene the Destroyer. Now the way this weapon works is that it comes with the highest damage of probably all of the revolvers currently in the game, almost 2400, so when you shoot a bullet with this thing it also sticks a bomb into the enemy, and that bomb can detonate and also deal damage around it. So it is an overall very good weapon, a very unique functionality, and I often find myself using this because it is so reliable. So this is both good against very big groups of enemies because you can take them all at the same time by just sticking these bombs into them, and even against bosses because bombs one after another are extremely good on weak points. Now the bonuses over here are pretty overwhelming. I mean 84% weapon damage, 10% critical damage, 15% reload speed, 100 splash damage, and quite a good zoom. It also has critical hits ricochet to bullets at the nearest enemy. Now there's a bunch of other manufacturers over here that I'm going to quickly go over, and these are of course the Torg pistols. There's a bunch of them over here that are pretty damn massive. I'm going to go over the first one because this is a rather favorite of mine. It is a very unique gun, and this is the Occultist or Occultist. I'm not really sure how you pronounce that. I'm pretty sure it's Occultist. Anyway, this drops from Troy. He is the one that drops it. It's a fairly easy drop, so he always drops it, at least in my case. And this has a very unique functionality, as in it shoots kind of like rocket bullets, and they are pretty overwhelming because these deal a lot of damage. As you can see, there's like 4 bullets at the same time, one in the center and like 3 or 4 surrounding them. And the way these work is that they both deal damage, they explode, and they also pass through the enemy. And if you shoot a few of these, you can quickly overwhelm any enemy, be it boss or just regular enemies, and they can get damaged so badly you can literally destroy everything with this thing. Now in terms of bonuses, the bonuses over here are obviously extremely good. So the damage over 1000, accuracy and handling is pretty decent at 50% flat. The reload time isn't really that bad, only a bit over 2 seconds. The fire rate is also quite high. I mean, you're shooting almost 1 bullet per second, so a pretty good one. And the magazine size of 6, which is a little bit over the low, so kind of like low to medium, but it comes with a really awesome 101 splash damage radius, and yeah, it also comes with some elemental damage. So overall, if you get this as anointed, it is extremely potent, it is very good, but the only downside that I found to it is the fact that the bullet travel time is rather slow. I mean, as you can see, yeah, it is rather slow. So if there's any enemy in front of you, if there's anybody moving too much, this thing is going to have a rather hard time hitting anything because, yeah, I mean, it's just too slow. Now, something that is kind of like an alternative, but also lower damage than it, is this one over here, the Devastator. This is also something that can drop from either of the twins, so Tyreen or Troy can both drop them. Now, the way this works is rather similar. It still shoots bullets that explode, but this time around they don't rotate, they move much faster, and they kind of go in a straight line. So you should like 2, 3, and they all explode on impact. Now the damage is of course pretty high, like almost 1400, accuracy and handling pretty high, reload time not really that bad, but of course it more than compensates with the high rate of fire, the very good magazine size, one of the highest magazine size for any pistol in the game, and it of course comes with some really awesome stats like 27% weapon damage, 200 splash damage radius, and it's also anointed in my case. So this is also a good weapon. It kind of makes up for the lack of speed for the bullets, but yeah, you might still have a little bit of trouble against enemies that are a little bit too far away for your comfort, but otherwise it's a really good weapon, really decent if you're playing close and personal to the enemy. Another one very similar to it, and as a matter of fact I believe that this is its exact counterpart, though there are some differences. This is of course the Risen's Thorns or Raisin's Thorns, but this is what drops from Chupacabra. It's a rather rare drop. It is a very unique looking gun, has some roses on top of it, and it works pretty similar to the previous one, and instead of like 3 or only 4 bullets, you can now shoot like 4 or even 5. Now in terms of damage is of course a little bit higher than the previous one, accuracy and handling is also better, reload time about the same, it's just that the fire rate is significantly lower and the magazine size is also significantly lower. lower, and this is what contributes to most of the damage difference between these two, because the Thorn is definitely lower damage or lower DPS compared to the Devastator, at least from the testing that I have done. Another category that I found to be really decent and rather good at clearing enemies, not so much at bosses, is the Dell, and there's a couple of options over here that I found to work pretty good, and these are the Nemesis and of course the AAA. The Nemesis, you get this as a random drop, and in my case I got it from Graveward, while on the other side the AAA drops from Kilovolt, but I believe there's other sources in there as well. Now both of these work pretty similar, as in you shoot in bursts of damage, but both of them come with alternate firing modes, in this case semi-auto for the Nemesis, and for the other one burst fire and burst fire. So not really sure what the difference is here, but in both cases it lets me pick burst fire, and I'm not seeing any difference between these two. In any case, I have found the Nemesis to actually perform better, even though theoretically speaking the damage over here is lower. So in the case of the Nemesis it's 509, while the AAA has a 509 times 2. Now in terms of accuracy and handling, both of these are on the extreme high end, so over 80% for both. The reload time is better on the AAA of course, but it compensates with the good fire rate and the overall way bigger magazine size, and I believe that it also contributes to what makes the Nemesis a better gun. You can shoot it for longer, you have more bullets, you also have a higher fire rate, so maybe that is where the difference comes from, but again, not that much of a difference to speak of. And the final weapon in the pistols category that I am going to cover is the Linog. This is a Children's of the Vault weapon, so it comes with a very nice damage over here of 460 times 3, making it a realistic like almost 1500. The accuracy on it is pretty poor, and that is for the fact that it kind of shoots bullets in a very wide cone, a very wide range, but the way it does damage is actually pretty damn good. It's just that the bullets are kind of slow moving, so if you play close range with this thing, you're definitely going to shred through the enemies. It deals a ton of damage because it just shoots a lot of bullets at the same time. So the closer you are to the enemy, the smaller the cone will be, the more concentrated the bullets are, compared to, for example, if you were to stay further away. So quite a big difference, but I tested this out against big groups of enemies and it is definitely amazing. Now on top of these, there are a bunch of other manufacturers in there that you can also test, but I have found to not be that great. There's melee one weapons, but it's not even worth it to go over melee one. At least in my case, I haven't found a good melee one weapon to begin with, let alone pistols. The same goes with Tidior. There's nothing much here to speak of, not that many great examples, and the damage isn't really that great either. And Vladov, pretty much the same. There is an infinity gun over here with infinite bullets, but the damage on it is almost negligible. And these are basically the top pistols currently in the game. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If there's any other pistols better than these, go ahead and post them down below. I'm really curious to see if there's any other guns that I have missed. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, a thumbs up on it would be super appreciated. Also subscribe and activate the notification bell for even more awesome content like this, and I will see you guys in the next one.